Um, we have an unseen sponsor. I didn't tell you about this, Finney. Okay. I want to introduce my friend Ian Utile. He's the CEO of Attention Live, and I am the director of ethics, and we're good friends. It's a tech company. It's a Web3 platform for audio content. It's a communication tool. He's been a huge help sponsoring this behind the scenes, really being an assistant to me, sharing so many of the ideas and help. And he said I didn't want my name on it or anything. But the Holy Spirit was moving upon him, and he felt he had some words. So Ian, take a couple minutes.
How about a story? Anybody like stories? I'm a big fan of stories. Jesus told a lot of stories, didn't he? The whole Bible's a story, isn't it? Written over thousands of years, 3 different languages, different continents. So about 250 years ago, my ancestor, Lieutenant Moraga, was at the end of his service to the Queen of Spain. So he heads up and he lands in Monterey, just south of here. And the general says to Lieutenant Moraga, "Hey, you're done. You've served well. In fact, you've been extraordinary. We love what you've done, and I'm going back to Spain to report to the Queen all that we've accomplished." And by that point, so many of the missions were started kind of up through Monterey. And he says, go make a name for yourself. And so what Jose decided to do was grab his friend, the priest, 18 men that he trusted, and all the women and children that were part of those men's families. He landed he went from Monterey, landed in San Francisco, where the Presidio is at today. And first thing he did was he established a relationship with the Native Americans. He's known as the only Spanish conquistador that did not have animosity with the locals. When he passed away, they actually had a Pope's procession for him, and it was a collaboration with him and his community that came from New Spain and the Native Americans that lived here. In addition to founding the Presidio in San Francisco, he also made his way down here, and my ancestor founded the city of San Jose. So for 10 generations, my family's lived here. And of course, this land might have a different meaning to me. It's interesting when I hear people talk about how bad things are. And then I think about our family stories. I'm like, you have no idea how bad things have been, how good things have been. You have a very short view. Like, just look at the last 250 years, all of the grace that has come from the Bay Area. And then you think about, well, if God graces humanity with another 250 years, what could be? And I wonder how many of you, and those that you mentor, and those that you serve and support, will make an impact. I remember growing up, I always had this Armageddon mentality. Like the world's gonna end. You know, like, maybe I will never have kids, maybe I should never buy a house, maybe I should never start a company, or whatever. And then I had this moment where I realized how much honor I had for Lieutenant Moraga. And like, why was it okay for him to accomplish all these incredible things with the Moraga family and eventually other families that many of you might know of, accomplished in California? Like, why was I good celebrating what he did and not looking forward to what can I do in the next 250 years? So one thing I wanted to communicate today is in all the ways that you look back at your heroes, and you look back at King David or John the Baptist or Ruth or Esther or whoever kind of just lights your fire, don't allow them to have a legacy and then stop yourself from believing that God can do equal and greater things through your own life. There's no reason for us to think the world's going to end today. Sure, could something happen? Yes. Could it be spiritual like a rapture? Possibly. Could it be a nuclear disaster? Possibly, but we don't know. What we do know is that God has continued to grace humanity generation after generation, millennia after millennia. He continues to use us, to love us, to work through us. It's a marvelous dance that we have with him. Finally, I was listening to Jordan Peterson talk about the Queen, and he had this really amazing perspective. He said, the thing I love about the Queen is that every prime minister that's ever walked in her room, they know she's more powerful than him. And the importance of having individuals that represent a dynasty or represent a responsibility of a family, and that person, not because of Elizabeth herself, but because of the role of a queen, that when a prime minister walks before that queen, no matter if it's Winston Churchill or anybody, it doesn't matter if they're part of the Conservative Party or the Labor Party, that when they walk in that room, Elizabeth has a authority. She gets to speak forth blessing and knight people. She gets to stop people from what they're doing and say, your time is done, to a certain extent. Now, in America, we don't have any honor for royalty, and I think that is probably in our best interest. Nevertheless, there is certainly something to my family line in terms of our family have been entrepreneurs here for 10 generations. Our family has started so many cities and started so many nonprofits and started so many churches over the course of 250 years. And so there is something to be said about a blessing in that regard. Now, of course, the most important heritage I have is I'm a son of God. I'm a friend of God. I'm a man like Jesus, more and more every day, ideally. But still, we're here in the Bay Area. We're in the city of San Jose, where my family's lived for 10 generations. So I thought it would make sense for me to just bless all of you with whatever it is that comes from my heritage, because I want all of you to feel empowered. You don't need a mayor. You don't need a governor. You don't need somebody that's been hired or voted on or somehow worked their way into power. I don't have any title. I'm not anything. I'm just a dude that loves Jesus and starts tech companies and goes wherever Ted is at. But in whatever way that you believe in a blessing, I give that to you. This can be your land, just as our family came here and developed some of what has become. So from me and all of my family, we bless each of you. We thank each of you for what you're doing, for what you've done, for what you will do. We would say yes. Yes to you, yes to your plans, and yes to the Lord through you in whatever way he would be gracious to use you. And that is why I told Ted I might want to take a moment to say I love you to all the people in the room and say hi for a moment, tell a couple stories. Thank you, Ted.